Welcome to the Loaf Podcast. This is a podcast for genuinely good people with a bit of an edge. People who want to help other people, unique people with a unique purpose. Our purpose is to find out what makes people tick, what's held them back and what's pushed them forwards. I'd love this to be as interactive as possible, so if you're watching on YouTube, please have a go in the comments and please read the show notes. Thanks to my sponsors, Verve Estates and Property Management, Darlington's finest estate agents and property managers, Neon Source, which is a sourcing company matching investors to properties, and also The Property Thing, which is the North's finest property networking event with a bit of business chucked in there as well. Thank you so much. Please enjoy. Hello, so welcome to another episode of the Loaf Podcast. We have today Emma Fielding. She's from Barnsley.
Yeah, sunny Barnsley.
She's an absolute, is there life in Barnsley? And we'll be getting to that. Well, there is. You certainly breathe some life into your flips and what have you.
Yeah.
So you're a property entrepreneur. You've only been going 3 years. You have got up to £1 million in turnover already, flipping property.
Yeah, seems pretty mental.
And my hat is off to you because you haven't gone down that hold cycle of let's just like amass as much property as possible. You've just got rid of it.
Yeah.
Done it. Got rid. Fantastic. Firstly, we are Life of a Fruitcake. This is about, neurodivergence and people that have overcome any kind of adversity in that realm and used it to their advantage, and you absolutely certainly have. So you opened up to me on the phone brilliantly about, your dyslexia.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How has it held you back and how's it driven you forward?
Yeah, so I actually was, I got diagnosed with dyslexia through the British Institute of Dyslexia when I was about 8 years old. So it was actually my primary school teacher that spotted it and I think you should go get tested. So my parents took me to the British Institute in Sheffield, and I remember I got a day off school. So they did like a really long, intense report. I think it's about 3 hours long and stuff. And obviously that really highlighted what my dyslexia actually was. And basically, long and short of it was that, I'm quite bad at reading, I'm quite bad at spelling, but everything else I'm not too bad at. But I do need some extra time when it comes to kind of big documents and things like that. And I definitely can see that when I'm, reading big contracts or, loan agreements, I definitely get other people to read that stuff. So I would say, my dyslexia through, school and education was really hard to get the right support because obviously there isn't many resources out there, and you really, really do have to push to get that right, educational support when you're in the education system. But I think going out of the education system, it's always been something that has really pushed me forward in leaps and bounds. And actually, I've kind of seen it as like a bit of a superpower. And I actually think differently to other people. And I think outside the box, I think more creativity. And, I'm more a visionary. As soon as I walk into a property, for example, I know what walls we need to be knocking down, what paint we need to be using, and things like that. And I think that has definitely been a massive plus and, definitely a massive advantage as to what I do now, to be honest. So I don't really see it as a weakness or anything. I think, if anything, I see it more as a benefit, and I'm glad to have, dyslexia, to be honest.
How did it make you feel at the time? Did you feel a bit singled out and a bit different?
Yeah.
Did anyone pick on you for that?
Yeah, I remember actually in school, I got bullied quite a bit, really? For it. And because I was actually in a separate room when I was doing my exams to everybody else. So, instantly you feel singled out, don't you? And especially when you've got a reader sitting next to you, reading out the question and stuff. It's not obviously the norm for when you're doing exams, to the average person. But obviously for me, having dyslexia, that's what I needed. And then I needed extra time as well, 25%. So everybody asks, don't they, as children? Oh, so why are you in this different room? Why are you having extra time? And you've got to explain it. But yet you don't want to be different to everybody else. But you kind of are different to everybody else at the same time.
Did anything like this ever sort of manifest itself in your life? Like when I was in the Navy and I found that I was getting into a bit of property and saving up deposits and sort of buying properties, I ended up being a little bit of a preacher on the flight deck and the quarter deck on an evening, kind of not trying to lecture people necessarily, but just kind of like in a way trying to recruit people into the way of thinking of saving up part of your wages to put it down as a deposit on property to, and I wouldn't just say that to everyone. It'd be people that I, knew and felt that were maybe a little bit entrepreneurial and stuff like that, because I was excited about that journey. And When I was recommended to do a test for ADHD about 18 months ago, and I did it, and it came back like, you are totally ADHD. And I was like, oh, wow. That actually explains a lot. And then I spoke to a clinical psychiatrist on the Zoom, and she said, yes, you definitely are. That wasn't an official diagnosis, by the way. That was just her saying, look, you know, I was like something like 17 out of the 19 symptoms and all of that kind of stuff. So there will be people out there saying, you're not until you've been diagnosed, mate, but I know what I have to live with on a daily basis. And that's made me into, in the same way as I was a bit of a, hey, get into property kind of preacher, I then became a little bit of a, well, life of a fruitcake. I mean, that's what the podcast is all about. But and I feel like sometimes, like, Paul, should you be saying this so much, like that you have ADHD when you actually haven't been diagnosed? But then I've tried the drugs and stuff like that other people use, and it really does help me, really does calm me down, really does give me that vision and focus. Yeah. And, you know, I shouldn't be taking other people's prescription drugs, but they're very, very light, sort of mild things. And do you ever come across people whereby you're like, oh, have you ever sort of tested for dyslexia or anything like that? Do you ever feel that you're sort of putting across onto other people because you feel like they might be dyslexic? Say if you were to read a report by someone and it was really bad spelling, do you feel like a bit embarrassed to do so?
That's really interesting, actually, because in a past life I was really involved in marketing, and I was involved in this really young cycling team in Yorkshire. And, you know, the girls were, you know, 14, 15, 16, and I knew instantly with one girl that I thought she was dyslexic. I could just tell from the way that she pronounced her words. I could just tell with the writing, for example. And I had a quiet word with her dad. Like, I knew her dad really well. And I said, oh, I think you should probably get her, you know, tested for dyslexia. Funnily enough, at the time, they were struggling to get her more support in school. So we put 2 and 2 together to make 4, and actually she was dyslexic, you know, which I thought, do you know what, such a relief for her to find out that actually she is dyslexic, and now she's got the right support at university and things like that. But she struggled all the way through school not having the right support, and I felt really, really sad because, you know, if somebody had, you know, took the time to really look at a work or look at a spelling in a bit more depth and have a kind of a wider opinion on it, or, you know, a wider thought that actually she could be dyslexia or, you know, dyspraxia, you know, there's other versions of it as well, she would have got the support sooner. You know, and I was just lucky that I spoke up, you know, to a dad, and obviously she got the support. But in terms of, you know, where I come from, dyslexia, I want to tell everybody about it because, you know, there is so many people that are undiagnosed with dyslexia, and it's just, you know, it's common. It's really, really common, and now it is more spoken about, which it should be. So I think, well, why not speak about it?
I did a wealth dynamic test. And it came back as creator, and I'm like, hold on, I can't draw a stick now. I'm certain, you know, I can't sing, play an instrument, nothing like that. But then I thought, actually, the more I got used to it, the more I read into it, the more actually, it's like creative problems. Yeah. Going into a property and being able to know what's coming out, what's coming back in, like visualizing the floor plans and all of that kind of stuff, and like being able to. What I loved about getting into smashing properties up and putting them back together again is that it happens slow time, and it happens at your pace, and it's not happening particularly quickly. That was one thing with the ADHD and the concentration and knowing exactly what order things are going in. I like things to happen in a slow time. And going down that creative route was definitely a plus for me, and I think it has been for you, and also that validation of, right, okay, well, if I'm not going to get on so well with accountancy, because that's what you actually got into, which is phenomenal, given that you were dyslexic, and I mean, that shows how bright you are. And but you didn't actually get on with it, so I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because that was your next step, wasn't it?
So my career started out in accountancy, and, you know, basically training to be an accountant. It seems crazy, it's worlds apart from what I do now, but actually there is some skills that align quite nicely with accountancy and obviously developing houses and things. But yeah, I was training to be an accountant at Morrison's, you know, the big supermarket. and I was obviously doing the commute from Barnsley to Bradford every day, 3 hours of travelling there and back, and in obviously lockdown and COVID, which was really stressful. And yeah, I basically started property because I got a job at Morrison's that was well paid, that enabled me to get a mortgage to buy my first house, you know, and I could move up the property ladder. And I did that, you know, twice with my own houses. And then actually I had an opportunity to leave Morrison's. So I thought, great, this was in January 21. I thought, right, this is now or never. And I guess, you know, that's probably a little bit of my dyslexia coming out and thinking, well, actually, you know, if other people can be developers, then why can't I? You know, even with the superpower of dyslexia. So, yeah, I basically in January 21 left Morrison's and then bought my third house cash, and then the rest is history, as they say.
I forgot to mention at the start of the podcast, I have Sir Anthony Weiss with us as well.
I was going to keep stumbling until you
flag that in at the start. I was lovely to wear your blue glasses, by the way. So you know, Emma's a the property thing guest tonight, and so because she's a property thing guest, obviously you're my co-host. So we're on the podcast as well. So
just to unpick what you said there then about starting with your own properties, I mean, it's a great way of getting into it, isn't it? If you've got the ability. I mean,
For sure.
Once you get tied down with children and ball and chains and all that kind of stuff, it gets more difficult, I'd imagine. But I mean, what did you get then? Did you have is it a Lisa or Lisa or whatever? Like one of the lifetime mortgages things? Or
No, it was like just a standard residential 2-year fix, right. No early repayment charges mortgage. That's literally what it was. That you know, it was a $9,000 deposit on my first house, and the cost of it, the purchase price was $96,500, you know, and then the refurb was $10,000, and then basically, the profit was $36,000. So it was more money than what I was earning at Morrison's, but I did it in tax-free, and I did it in a 9-month period from buying, renovating, and selling. And in that renovation, I got really, really hands-on. I did a lot of the work myself. You know, I managed all the trades while working full-time, and you know, doing everything on a weekends. Bearing in mind, I was supposed to be studying for my SEMA accountancy exams, which I wasn't really, to be honest. I was more interested in renovating my house. And then obviously from there, then sold that house, then bought another one, renovated that, sold it within 6 months, and again, made more money than my corporate job wage. And I thought, actually, there's something here, isn't there? I keep, you know, there's like a recurring pattern. So January came up, and I left. And it was scary leaving, you know, when you're leaving a stable, you know, stability lifestyle, for example. And I could have moved up the corporate ladder, but obviously I thought, no, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want out of life. Yeah.
I think everyone goes through that, don't they, when they take that leap, and then it's always, I wish I'd done it sooner. Yeah. When you look back, isn't it? So it's a bit scary stepping into the unknown.
Yeah. For me, like, you know, I was single, you know, I don't have any kids or anything, and, you know, there was just me. I thought, it's now or never. Like, it really, really is. And I had a few friends that were in property as well that have been in the industry, you know, 20 odd years and stuff. And I was looking at them thinking, you know what, like, they did it when they were single. They did it when, like, you know, they didn't really have many ties. Yes, you can do it when you've got kids and things, but I thought this is the perfect time in my life just to do it, just to put my money where my mouth is, and just to do it.
And how nice not to have a capital gains tax bill out of that first deal.
Yeah. So
set you away.
There was a bit of a story with that, actually. So before I even bought my first house, I had a chat with my accountant and a tax advisor saying, look, you know, where do I stand on the tax point of view? And he said I could have got away with 3 houses, but I did it on 2. So yeah. But yeah, there's a little bit of a loophole around that that people don't really know. So
if you were scaled up to a mill by now and you were still doing that, the tax man might have a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it might have a bit of a problem.
Tell us about that. I mean, you're smashing it right now. You're up to £1 million turnover already.
Year 2 trading.
How's that happened, and where you're going from here, and what you're looking to get up to?
Yeah, it's crazy to think. Last year turnover just over £1 million, which is mental to think. I started with just 20 grand, to be quite honest. But you know, obviously with flips, you know, you buy really run-down properties, you renovate them to such a high standard, like what I do, and obviously you try and sell them the maximum profit you possibly can, and obviously with that push the ceiling price price. And again, with that, hopefully you pull out a nice chunk of profit every time you do that. And luckily, so far, touch wood, I have. I've been really kind of quite, sensible, but also calculated risks, I would say, in this, year or two, 3 years now. And I know my area inside out. So I think that also really helps as well. And obviously with that, again, I have a great team around me as well.
Yeah, and how many jobs have you got on simultaneously at the moment? And tell us about your power team as well, please.
Yeah, so I normally have anything from 2 to 4. We've actually just finished one a couple of weeks ago. Now we're on with a big 4-bed detached farmhouse, which is 120 grand refurb. So a relatively big refurb that I'm funding. My power team itself, that's really changed over the last couple of years. It really started with me managing each and every individual trade. And I actually got to the point where I don't want to be on site every day, all day. It's not going to get me that far in terms of growing the actual business itself. So this year, in year 3, I made a decision to get in a main contractor just for them to take over everything pretty much. Luckily, I actually knew this main contractor from when I kind of first started in property. And it was just a time where he was going to be leaving his situation with another property investor and then come with me full time. So we already had a conversation quite a few months prior to that actually happening on one of my renovations back in last year. And then now, him and his team take over. I've still got my set of lads that I bring in when I need to. So really, I have 2 sets of teams of trades at any one time. I call it an A team and a B team. And I pull them in, to get obviously the jobs done as quickly as what we can.
Do they know that you call them A team and B team? Do
They don't actually know, but but I know in my head who's the A and who's the B.
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean.
No names will be mentioned.
No names will be mentioned.
Have you got any female tradies?
No. I wish there was though. I really, really wish there was, female sparkies, female plumbers, roofer, etc. I want more women that are actually physically in the trade. And I think if I didn't go to uni, if I hadn't done the corporate career, I would have probably trained as a plumber or a sparky, And again, being dyslexic, you're very, very practical as well. And, you like to get your hands dirty and stuff. So I think if I hadn't done all that, I would have definitely worked in the actual trade itself.
And have you come across many male chauvinists? And
there's been 1 or 2 along the way. Yeah.
Do you prefer to hit them with a handbag or a tool bag?
I like that saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like for me, I just like to prove it in the numbers or buying more houses. Everybody has an off day, but there's no need to be rude or nasty to somebody just because they're young or they're a female or anything like that. So for me, I like to buy more houses, and I think that shows them, exactly where I'm at and what they're not doing.
Is it like an age thing, do you think? Is it dying out as maybe the trades leave, or have you found it could be anyone who...
To be quite honest, my team of trades is actually quite young. There's only my oldest contractor is 47 years old, but actually all the other lads under him are much younger in the mid-20s, early 30s.
So nothing happens on a Monday. They're gone by lunchtime on a Friday and they're motivated Tuesday to Thursday.
To be fair, they're really good lads. They work 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. every day, Monday to Friday. That's my lads that I've got on site always. So
some of the stuff you're going to go out to, you mentioned like sort of going out to principal contractor. Do you ever split stuff down into subby packages and get a project manager to run it, or is it just that you're running your jobs with your lads?
Yeah.
And then other jobs you're giving the principal main contractor?
No. So I basically run it with my main contractor, basically. Right. Even though I'm not on site every day, I still know what's happening day in, day out. I'm still very much in control, even though I'm not there every day. I still pay all the invoices. I'm still there, paying all the lads on a Friday, etc. I know what materials have been bought day in, day out. So even though obviously he's got control of the renovation, I still know what's going on as a whole. So
it's nice to not have to or like have that amount of knowledge already that you aren't going to get your pants pulled down by daft asses trying to have one over.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
has that happened?
Well,
People
with that, I actually, one of the reasons why I got really hands-on to start with, bearing in mind now, I was knocking down walls, doing a bit of plumbing, landscaping, etc., is because I wanted to learn actually what goes into property developing. Every little bit I wanted to know, and actually doing it and seeing it, you pick up so much stuff. So I think when I meet, let's say, a new trade, for example, I already know kind of what they need to be doing. So if they're not asking, the right questions to me, then immediately alarm bells ring, and things. So yeah, I try and obviously, I think, doing a lot of the work has that respect with the trades anyway. So I don't really get my pants pulled down, I would say, in that sort of sense.
Yeah. Is that like a neuro, I wouldn't say a problem, but, I like to prove people wrong and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And learn by doing, I think that's to do with the dyslexia and whatever else, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
I think it is, yeah.
Get on with stuff and prove people wrong rather than relying
absolutely.
on people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much driven to just get shit done, basically. And I know what goals we need to hit week in, week out. And obviously when you work with investors as well, I'm always reporting back to them every Friday. So, week in, week out, I've got a set of goals that the lads need to hit. And that's on my shoulders for them to hit that goals. And I'm always asking, okay, well, why haven't we hit that goal? Or why did we hit that goal early? Or, all those types of questions. And the lads probably get sick of me asking those questions, but they need to hear me ask those questions, obviously, to keep them motivated, because they know that's coming. So, and also when they meet my investors as well, because sometimes my investors come and visit the renovations, they need to be on the ball as well for those types of questions.
I used to call them a royal visit.
Yes.
So the nice thing about the aura that you give off is one of fairly no nonsense, and I'm guessing you're pretty no nonsense with the workmanship, and you have no qualms whatsoever.
Yes.
Say, excuse me, mate, can you have a look at this detail down here? That's not acceptable.
Absolutely. I'm probably the first one on site really to spot out, okay, why hasn't this been done, or we need to do this, or I'm asking questions all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm on site 30 minutes a day or an hour or 2 hours a day. I will be constantly asking questions within that period that I'm on site. And actually, I'm also asking questions about what's coming next, even though I know what's coming next, but I want them to tell me what's coming next in the renovation.
How have you got the package together then? Is it just through working with you over and over that everybody knows what they're doing now in terms of the finished result, or what are you providing them? Because no matter what I seem to draw up for people, you always go to site and, that's not quite where I put it, or that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So how are you getting the best out of them, and how do they know what you want?
I think for me, the best way I get out of the trades is that I'm present. And, I have a really open book with my trades. They know what's going on in the business. They know what houses are in legals. They know what we're buying next, for example. So I keep them motivated that way. But in terms of the renovation itself, I think being present constantly and having an open line of communication where actually they can phone me at any point. Doesn't matter if it's day or night, or FaceTime if I'm not there. And also I get on really well with the lads. Like, I treat them. For example, this renovation that we're doing now, they've had £300 on a tab at the local bakery because they all love the local bakery. So it's little stuff like that actually really, spurs them on, for example. Or I take them out on nights out, Christmas drinks, for example. We're actually organising a big party at one of the renovations as well. So, everybody's excited about that. So, yes, it's about obviously, keeping them happy, but actually it's about creating a team environment because, if any of the lads do have any issues on site, yes, they can go to the main contractor, but they can also come to me as well. I don't want to be seen as, Emma runs, the house. I can't go to her if I've got a question. You know what I mean? Of course they can come to me for a question. I want them to come to me, if there's any issues and things like that. So
your own property that you actually live in.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're still living with your parents.
No.
And you must be looking at that like, and you must be looking at that like, when am I going to flip this? Or are you like really happy where you're at?
Yeah, so I actually live with my boyfriend at the minute, and we're looking at getting a house, a nice house together.
We'll have to be knackered.
Yes, we are looking at renovations, obviously, just because obviously I don't see any point in buying, something that's already done when I've got all the contacts and
I'm
stuff.
looking at new builds now and going, that would be lovely, just
Oh,
moving in
yeah.
there.
No,
Nothing as you get to our
I'm
age.
completely the opposite. I'm completely the opposite. My boyfriend's, I drive him mad with it. But yeah, I want something that's really run down, derelict, that I can save some stamp duty on will be perfect.
Sound as a pound. What's the most celebrated time you've walked away from a deal, like blowing smoke out of both barrels that you thought, yeah, I've nailed that deal there?
You know what? To be fair, there's been one or two. And I think one more recently, Project In was a bungalow conversion on Millionaires Row in Barnsley. And it was a 2-bed bungalow, converted it to a 4-bed, full wraparound extension. I actually self-managed that build. And looking back at it, I think I was absolutely crazy to self-manage it myself. That was a point where I wasn't working with my main contractor. But I turned around the renovation, the whole build, within 8 months. And obviously it was over the winter period as well. So we obviously tackled quite a lot of, weather challenges, as you do. But to bring it in on that time frame, on the scale that it was, I was pretty happy with that, to be honest. But then also, I think the cherry on top was that I bought, renovated and sold that deal within 51 weeks, and I made 93 grand. So, and also then I won Young Property Investor of the Year as well. So I think that deal as a whole was a massive cherry on top.
What was
to be
that
honest.
like leading up to that award when there were? Did you have an inkling that you had picked it up?
No, I had no inkling.
You're not done your speech?
No,
thinking,
honestly,
I'm not going up there.
no, I had no inkling whatsoever. And actually, the application process was really long-winded. And I thought, again, me being dyslexic, I've probably done quite a few spelling mistakes here. Nobody's checked it, type of thing. So I kind of, I felt like I let myself down on that. But actually, to win and obviously to be given that award, I was like, wow, this is really the cherry on top moment. And I think it's only when you really look back a few months later, you think, wow, I've done all right there. So
will you please, if you haven't already, go back to your school, clutching said award, and do a chat and look into the eyes of all the kids and say, I was the dyslexic kid at school.
Yeah.
And this is me now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this to brag, but, I've done all of this.
Yeah.
So please.
It's funny, actually, you mentioned about school with that, because when I was actually at school, obviously everybody gets like a careers talk and stuff. And I actually said to my careers advisor at the time, I wanted to be a multi-millionaire. I'm not there yet. But that was basically my chat. I said that and I walked out. It was a space of 2 minutes. And actually I always think, one day I'll go back and be like, oh, actually I did do it. I did make it. Mm-hmm. But obviously, I'm just currently on that path. So, which is really exciting.
And when do you think you might get a little bit sick of the refurbs and just go for a bit of land for planning? Because that's got to be in your bones, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I have actually already looked at stuff like that, and just unfortunately the right plot hasn't come up, or the right number of units on a particular plot. But actually, I think what I'm more interested in now is probably more commercial to resi. I think that's probably my next path. When I obviously started in property, I said, I want to flip 10 houses. I'm past that now. I'm, going on for 15 at the end of this year. I'm currently buying a street, which is a bit crazy. So I think, after all these have sold, then I think I'm going to just reanalyze everything. But I think more commercial to resi might be the way. But my longer term goal is to build luxury new builds. So that's my goal.
So is that flips commercial to resi, or are you starting to look at
No,
holding
I
things?
think I'll probably hold some at that point. You know what? I'm in no rush to hold, to be quite honest. I've built up a really great cash pot, obviously.
So this is two people who hold, and we're only 25 years old.
There you go.
So this is what holding does to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of headaches that come with it. And actually, one of my investors is really heavily involved in the rental sector, and he works with the government in his company and things. And I just thinking, wow, there's a lot of headaches. And with the flip side, I have different headaches, but actually the headaches that I can get over really, really quickly.
It's like babysitting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're giving the kids back to the parents at the end. And you're getting rid of all the problems and passing them on to the next person.
And I do see every house as my little baby. My business is my baby at the end of the day. But I think holding some properties is going to be a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, so that's where I feel I went wrong and didn't flip enough stuff
Right.
over the years.
Because everybody says, "Oh, never sell," but
no.
you know, I
Sell.
love you know flipping houses. It's my passion.
Yeah, it took me to get. I should have known, but it took me to get to 35 single lets before I could even afford to go.
Oh wow.
Yeah, mind you, I did have a lot of activity, and I was refurbing everything. Everything was a chicken shed that I
Yeah.
was putting back together with my own two hands, and.
Wow.
Yeah, because of that activity, that took a lot of money, so I had to be refinancing loads of stuff all the time,
Yeah.
and building this great big thing up. And I wish I'd done the old slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
taken
yeah.
my time more and not
Yeah.
had to have, had this kind of validation thing. Oh, well, get offered 3 properties, buy 3 properties.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Maybe I should have just done one at a time and flip. I could write a book on.
There is
if
that
I had
old
my
saying,
time
isn't
again
there?
by Paul Mullen.
Buy 3 houses, rent 2 and flip 1 and stuff. So yeah, maybe I would probably take that approach and stuff. But I think the whole thing with holding property is that I see it as the bank's in control. I don't want the bank to be in control. I want me to be in control. So that means that I've got to have more cash. Yeah. And that's the whole reason why I flip houses, because I know when I come to holding property, I won't be putting them on 80% loan to value or 75%. They'll be more on 60 or even 55% loan to value. And I'll be trying to bring down that loan to value every year possible, obviously for the longer term. So
how are you finding these then? I mean, have you got to the position where they're now just coming to you? Do you ninja marketing you with a sandwich board on a roundabout or something like that?
I'd like to be. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, basically the properties come in all different shapes and sizes and contacts and things. And I think social media is really great because I get a lot of people come to me saying, "Oh, this person's selling this house, blah blah blah." Nine times out of 10, it's not the right house. But it's nice that they've done that. And actually, the street that I'm buying is from some people that I know, even though it didn't sell at auction, for example. So I think that's always really good. And then, others have just been, Rightmove. I've done quite a lot of deals that have actually just been on Rightmove, but I've offered really well, or I've offered, one offer and I've stuck by it, and I've backed it up. And that's how I've got the houses. Obviously, being a cash buyer as well, that definitely helps. Sometimes no searches, sometimes no survey as well. I think that's when people really realise you're serious.
I think you should get your face on billboards around Barnsley because you do. If you don't mind me saying, you do look so much like Adele. People will be like, "Adele's buying houses in Barnsley." It would give you so much attention.
Mini boom as well. The property prices increasing tenfold.
I know.
There you go. They actually would, wouldn't they?
And then Adele will probably, see it on Instagram and then come and visit, and you can do a duet. And
there you go.
mega.
Happy days.
Tag me in on the
We're
Insta
probably
post.
going to put Barnsley on the map for that.
So, have your mum and dad have they always been super supportive, or have they ever said, "Bloody hell, like calm down," or are they totally cool with it? Have they ever worried about you?
Yeah,
Getting into
my parents actually they work for the council,
Right.
2 different councils. And
Planning department by any chance?
No, really different to that. But they've always had a really steady, slow income type of thing. And obviously, me doing what I do now, they're thinking, "Oh my God, this is a bit mental." And when I say, "Oh, I own this many houses," or I'm going to own 7 houses in the space of in 3 weeks' time, which is a bit mental, really. But they are super, super supportive, and I'm really, really grateful that they are supportive. And I've got a really supportive partner as well. So, when you have a really good network of people that are really supportive and get it, I think that's priceless, really. You can't really put a price on that.
Might you have a petit penchant for a smart car? As in not a smart car, but do you like a nice motor, or do you drive a tipper truck?
Do you know what? I've had my 2 Series for the last 8 years, and
all right, fair play.
I'm actually coming to the point where I probably should get rid of it because it's getting really tatty, and when trades get in my car, I'm a bit
Yeah.
embarrassed, but it is what it is. But
You're gonna go for a Ford Ranger, a big posh Ford Ranger, or something like that. Or
I really like the Defenders, but I can't justify paying that much.
Well,
I
you can
really
get more in the
can't.
boot than
Get a
a
commercial one.
2-door coupe.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a commercial one. Yeah, because I've got a dog as well, so I need a good
There you go.
good boot
My
space.
pal's just got a real good deal on one of about $400 a month or something like that.
That's
on a
really
lease.
good.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
a lot less
yeah.
than what I was saying to him.
Yeah.
So okay, you might have to put in
I will
contact with the
do.
dealership.
Yeah, fair play.
Referral bonuses left, right, and centre.
So what's the biggest win you've had networking?
Networking, I think my biggest win is getting out there, really. And I think with that has enabled me just do what I do in terms of speaking, events and podcasts. But actually, on the other side and the investment side, it's brought me into, pools of investment. Which is huge, to raise £2 million, through high net worth individuals has literally come from networking and using my network of people. And it's not necessarily, I might not know them straight away, but somebody else knows them. So then they've passed me on, go speak to this person, or, he's offering advice on this, or he'd be really interesting for you to speak to. And I don't, approach these people with like, can I have 250 grand? Like, just off the back of it. It's always a conversation, and it takes months, it takes time, years. And I think, a lot of people think, you can just get a lot of money off, high net worth individuals really quickly. No, absolutely not. It doesn't work like that.
But that's what the courses teach.
Well, they do teach that. I don't teach that. But yeah, it's all about building relationships is key.
Do you, what type of person is it then that's got the brass to come in? Like generally business people that have bought and sold businesses, or do you find that there's other property people that have made their brass and they just want to deploy it with you? Or
so none of my investors have actually got any property, really, to be honest, not of any substantial. They've got a couple of buy-to-lets and things, but nothing too major. Basically, more my investors, high net worth individuals that are either retired CEOs or COOs, or they're in business now, they're time poor, but they're cash rich. Some of them are even looking to exit their businesses, or they've had buyouts in their businesses. I come along and say, look, I can offer you a lot better return than a bank. Also, I can give you the security as well, and you're getting involved in something really fun. For example, buying a street, like that is pretty fun. And when obviously some of the investors are down south, you can't buy a street for what you can up here. So it's
and what would you say to those people who are sat listening to this with maybe a little bit of kind of life imposter syndrome, or a little bit of kind of low self-worth, or a bit of fear towards buying a street? What's you jump out of bed every day and you do your thing, and it's like you're keeping on going, like a bigger step every day, if you like, or a bigger step every week. What would you say to those people that would have the fear towards that, or think, rather, maybe I should reword this, or think, I'll never be able to do that?
To be quite honest, I never thought I could buy a street, let's be honest, but you've got to start small, and, small as in,
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, well, not that, but you've got to start, with your 2-bed terraces, or your 3-bed semis, you've got to work up to it. It takes time, property, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like that's what I say to everybody that says, how did you get to where you were? Well, yes, I flipped a lot of houses, but actually, time has come with that as well. Property prices have increased significantly where I am, and I'm adding significant value. I'm buying well, and I think you always make your money when you buy, not when you sell. So, you can't obviously just buy a street straight away unless you've got, a few million in the bank, but, you've got to start off small.
I think you are the epitome of, I can imagine, shy Ben's getting out. And I had a bit of that, and I think that comes from being a bit of a fruitcake. As a 25-year-old, I think, going around the bank saying, hello, I've got 5 houses, I'd like you to lend me £1 million, please.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, next one.
And you go around the houses,
eventually, HSBC was like, well, okay, there's a facility of £500,000, and then,
brilliant.
Come back in a few months, or however long, 2 years, I was back in 6 months, can have another £250,000, please. And that was like at the end of the 90s. So that's what you've got to do, isn't it? You have to ask.
Yeah.
Drive past a knackered house, you're asking the neighbours.
Yeah,
what's
of course,
the crack? Because 99% of other people look past, think that's a great property to do up, but then do nothing about it. It's a case of the old action creates opportunity, innit?
Agreed.
And shy Ben's getting out.
Yes, absolutely.
So what makes you a great mentor?
Well, I would say obviously my vast, experience for one. I feel like I'm still pretty young. I'm only 29, 30 this year, and I feel what I've done in the last 3 years especially has just been absolutely a whirlwind. So I think creating, my property portfolio from zero to what it is now, I think, well, yeah, I've got quite a lot of experience, probably more experience than I've realised, especially when I speak to, newbies or people that are just getting started. So I think, my experience, but also, my contacts, that's grown significantly, from literally knowing one plumber and one sparky, and just having that network of, great trades, but also great mentors, great investors, people that I can tap into. So, yeah.
I was going to say, do you think the market post-COVID has helped with this strategy? Do you think you'll have to pivot at some point in the near future?
Yeah.
What does your crystal ball say? What are interest rates going to do?
Yeah, interest rates. Well, I actually. Was it today the interest rate?
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
I need to have a look.
You have a Google.
I predict they've held. That's my prediction.
Gone down 10%. No.
Imagine that.
Can you imagine that? But
Even 1% would be nice. It's only ever going to come down a quarter at a time.
Yeah, which is next to nothing, is it, in the grand scheme of things? But
oh, you were right. Hold.
Yes.
Hold. Yeah.
Oh well.
So,
what business systems do you use to keep yourself organised? Do you have like a Asana or Podio or anything like that? How do you keep your life congruent?
do you know what, Paul? I don't use any of those. I probably should, but I'm all about lists and Excel and Google Docs. I'm quite old school in that respect.
Google Docs, yes. So
yeah, obviously, Google Docs is really good, but I love creating lists and stuff. So yeah, I've got a lot of spreadsheets and things. They all tie into a master spreadsheet and things like that. So I've got 2 main documents really that I use a lot.
Is that your ninja sort of powers from accountancy?
Yes, I would say so. Even though at Morrison's I was really bad at Excel, so I think that's come on a lot. So,
do you have goals written down?
Yes, I do. Yeah, so around kind of November to December every year, I write down my yearly goals, and I've done that for the last kind of 4 or 5 years. And every kind of couple of weeks, couple of months, I will always go back to them and think, actually, am I on target to hit that goal by December? And things. And I'll change some of them probably slightly, but not too much. It won't drift away from the actual goal that I wrote back in December.
What book recommends would you put out there that have helped to change your life or give you a different perspective?
Do you know what, Paul? Being dyslexic, I've actually never read a book.
Do you not do audiobooks, mate?
I don't.
No.
I don't. I'm very much switching off to music and stuff. So I don't listen to audiobooks. Podcasts, yes, but audiobooks, no. And actual books, I don't read. So.
I used to go out with my pal for a few beers, and if we ever kept over at his house, he'd always have evening talk radio on. I'd be like, how do you get to sleep with that radio whittling away there? and it used to do my head in, so I'd be like, a pair of socks stuck in my ears or whatever.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, that audio book mad. I'm like, if I'm dropping off to sleep, I'm like, put my audio book on. I don't know why. I just
something there.
Love it, yeah.
Your brain's taking
in the info. I'm going to send you one or
info.
two that I think will make a difference to you, and I'd love you to get Audible on the go.
Do you know what? I would really love to be into it, but I've just never found one that's been right. But yeah, I'm definitely open to it. So
allow
please
me to
send
prescribe something for you, madam. Sir Anthony, any more questions, sir?
Oh God, I don't think so at the minute.
Well, I've got loads more.
Oh, well, go on, carry on.
Yeah, so the lowest points for you. You must have had shit shows. Anthony and I did a great version of the property thing one time where we did.
It wasn't great for us.
Well,
but
it was lovely that people were coming up to us afterwards like, I didn't realise you guys had so many shit shows. It's like, because
our life is one.
And we loved that. That was our favourite TPT, watching you bare your bottoms in public. But it was us and Jason living 3 kind of almost different generations of property development and our particular shit shows. And we've had some absolute clangers between us, but what have been your favourite or unfavourite
there is
shit shows?
definitely weekly shit shows, isn't there, or monthly shit shows, I would say.
Micro shit shows.
Yeah.
What's your macro ones?
Yeah. I would say one that I'm actually tackling currently right now is a house sale of mine. I'm at the top of the chain. There's a chain of 5, and there's one person in the chain delaying it all. And we've been in legal since Feb, and we've had numerous completion dates put forward. I've actually resulted it to go back on the market. I actually did an an Instagram poll about it last week. But when you get to a stage where you've got multiple renovations happening, and that obviously, you know, you're buying more houses, it's really critical that you've got a pipeline, of cash, physical cash, but also money coming into the business. And obviously for flipping, how you do that is obviously selling the houses. So when houses are very much delayed and they're out of your control, you know, that's when shit shows happen. You know, it really does. And it does, like, shit does hit the fan. And you've just got to be really mentally strong to get over it. And also you've got to have, you know, people that you can call up upon to, you know, get cash, basically, to obviously fund your renovations and stuff. When especially when you're doing heavy, big refurbs, like obviously this farmhouse that I'm doing now. So that's just a current shit show.
Yeah. Is there a particular buyer you aim for with your refurbs then, or is it just depends on what the property is and what you...
Yeah, because obviously all the renovations are very, very different, you know. So, yeah, the buyers are all different, you know, from cash to first-time buyers to people downsizing to people moving up the property ladder. You know, I've had buyers that have seen my stuff on Instagram and then they bought it, which is always great. But then I've had people that have, you know, seen it on TikTok, for example. And, you know, I've had a whole different mix of buyers, you know, locally, you know, not local, move into the area. So, yeah, it's quite nice.
Do you do all your own socials?
Pardon?
Do you do all your own socials?
Yeah, I do all my own socials,
right.
yeah.
Have you ever, you've got a lovely aura about you of friendliness and, you know, direction and all of that kind of stuff, but have you ever gone on site and walked on like that and sacked someone?
Do you know
have you ever lost your shit?
Yes, I have.
Was it satisfying?
Oh, I loved it.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
I know he did.
To be fair, the person, I won't say who it was or what he did, but yeah, he absolutely deserved it. He was taking the pee, let's be honest. And even when your main contractor says, you know, Emma, I think you've been a bit too lenient here, and then I have to realise myself, yes, I absolutely have. Right, let's, you know, talk about it. Yeah. But you were out the door at the same time, so yeah.
Did you feel guilty about it at all?
No,
afterwards?
No. He actually owed me quite a bit of money, but anyway, that's a different story.
Progress prevention officer type of thing, yeah. Sir Anthony, are there any further questions from you, sir?
I mean, just to unpick that one a little more, then you're saying about owing money. Had you maybe made a mistake with how you were paying them? So this is, I think sometimes you can get a bit overly friendly with your trades and like, oh, you know, I just need a little bit of money to get me through.
Yeah.
And think, just pay him that grand. I know you haven't finished the work, and then you don't
to be
see
fair,
him
it actually wasn't a lot of money. It was only about 400 quid, really. But there was one particular trade that I've worked with from day one. To be honest, really nice guy actually, but just got a lot going on in his personal life. And you know, you do get to know people, you know. And I always say, get to know your trades. And I really got to know him, for example. And there was multiple times where he would come to me, you know, for, you know, money up front, for example. And, you know, at times you're happy to do that, but not when it's not been put into the work, for example, or you're not turning up when you say you're going to turn up, especially when you've got a lot of other things going on. It's the last thing you want to deal with. It was only actually with that one particular trade, to be honest. But I'm glad it happened, actually. Yeah, when I had to spin it around, I'm glad it happened.
Back in the day, about 1,000 years ago, when I had a plumber that was bashing full heating systems into properties for 500 quid. And he wasn't even self-unemployed either. He was just an old boy. He was absolutely smashing. Yeah, that was me paying materials, by the way. And the bathroom.
I was going to say stealing the copper from Harvey or something.
Yeah, honestly. And back in those days, it was so nice because my Sparkies got on really well with the plumber, got on really well with the plasterers, and sometimes they just went, I mean, it was like cookie cutter really with, you know, small properties, 3, 4 bedders, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was so nice because they all got on and everyone sort of knew what the right hand knew what the left hand was doing. And I suppose I was there a hell of a lot on the tools as well, but I was bobbing around between, you know, sometimes 2 or 3 different jobs. But as you get bigger and the more trades that you do sort of pull in, I mean, have you ever had trades at each other's throats for not doing stuff on time or getting stuff done? So that, I mean, that's costly to you, isn't it?
It can be. Yeah, luckily I haven't actually. And again, I think because the trades are relatively quite young, like they just get on. And like I think with that as well, because you know, obviously I take them out for drinks and you know I create a really cool environment, you know, and a hard working environment. They don't really, you know, like I have arguments or anything. You know, a lot of the lads really are quite chilled out, which I think, you know, personality traits, if you're looking for trades, you want them relatively, you know, relaxed, but not too relaxed to the point where they don't do anything. You want them obviously, you know, consistent with what they say and what they're doing, but you don't want them to be a massive stress head, because it'll just throw the whole tension off in the refurb. Now, when I go to my refurbs, the music's on, you know, everybody's having banter, you know, there's laughing, joking, and I love to see that. If I don't see that, then something's wrong and I'm doing something wrong. So
Fair play. Something about these Yorkshire developers, isn't there? Craig Mitchell, he's a chilled out cookie.
Yeah.
He's got really good teams going on. Do you know Craig?
I don't know him personally, but I follow him on Instagram. Yeah,
Right,
he's doing some cool new builds, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good lad as well. A real good heart on him, and smashing aura as well. But so talking of Insta, where do we find you?
Emma Property Developments on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. Yeah,
And tickers.
TikTok. On TikTok as well. Again, same. Emma Property Developments.
Good stuff. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks
That's been
so much.
about an hour and 10 minutes, I think, of pure gobbing off, which is
Oh,
absolutely
perfect.
brilliant. So
Thanks
thank
so
you
much,
so
guys.
much, and really looking forward to the property thing tonight.
Me
where
too.
We're going to ask you to do it all again, but with
Hey.
slides.
Excited.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kira. Thanks so much.
Thanks.